what is the evaluation process that Mentor Securities usually takes someone through when you're creating a valuation? I know you've got years of experience in valuation. So, what would be the step-by-step process you take someone through?
Well, and also like Eric, and I didn't mention it at the top, but I have started four or five companies and bought and sold several businesses. So we both have that operational experience and that understanding of how a business should function. And it's funny, every owner thinks their business is unique, and it is to a certain extent, but it's not, because there are certain principles that apply to every business. So when we're looking at your question here, looking at the evaluation process, I think probably the single most important thing we do is to try to find problems, because if we don't find them and we bring in buyers, they're going to find them. Okay. So what we want to do is find the issues, the good and the bad, and then try to have answers or resolutions for the problems. Like Eric mentioned, maybe customer concentration. Maybe there's a way that's not really, shouldn't be looked at as customer concentration. Okay, maybe it's an industry that's smaller and doesn't have a lot of customers. So you want to emphasize that rather than the fact that they only have 5 or 6 customers. Okay, so we're looking for issues, but we're really, as part of the initial process, that advisory fee or the retained fee, we're trying to determine what this company should sell for. So we're going through a process of discounted cash flows. We're looking at various multiples, what other companies that are similar to our seller have sold for. And Eric mentioned there's 2 parameters there, and software companies really sell as a percentage of revenues or a multiple of revenues. So there's multiples of revenues and multiples of EBITDA. So we're putting together the analytics where we can come up with a good, strong range of what that company should sell for. And then part of that process is to go back to the seller and make sure that we're aligned in our interests, make sure that what we think they're worth and what we think we can get in the marketplace is what they think. It's very critical, because if we go into a situation where they're thinking $100 and we're thinking $10, we have a major disconnect. So that's a critical component of what we do. I think also to look at this in terms of the ideal buyer. Okay. We want to find the buyers who want to eliminate competition, who want to buy intellectual property and customers, who are looking for key personnel that will complement their operations. And so we're also looking for the strategic buyer who doesn't have strong organic growth. So what do they have to do? They have to go to the marketplace and acquire companies if they don't have that strong organic growth. The other thing, the ideal buyer is really, do they fit with our seller? Will they have a similar culture at the end of the day after they've signed off on all the documentations, and that owner or owners of the seller are no longer there, which could be 1 month or it could be 2 years.
I think anyone who is unfamiliar with this process would immediately know, well, it needs to be a profitable company. The average person can value something based on, revenue and profit, because it just makes sense. But what you're also describing is something outside the scope of what most of us would consider would be the ideal candidate would pay more than someone else who's just evaluating it as an asset, meaning someone who requires something that adds value. Like, oh, I just bought this and now I own IP. So my current portfolio of a business A plus business B, isn't just 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 = 3, 1 + 1 = 5. And so you're describing this not checkers, but chess, that you are entering the intimate area of getting to know a company when you're doing evaluation, and you're helping the business owner to think from different vantage points. Who would find this company the most valuable so we can maximize, an estimated valuation? And I think that's a mind-blowing paradigm shift for the average person who maybe
it is a paradigm shift. And one other point I'll add to that that's very important is most of our sellers are concerned about identifying the fact that they're actually selling the company to their competitors. So we're very, very careful in selecting the buyers that we don't go to the competitors right away. But the interesting thing is we want those people on our list, because if we've gone through a whole series of other strategic buyers and private equity firms, a lot of times when they're really down the line in the process, they'll go to a competitor and sometimes get the best price. But we keep them in abeyance, if you will, and we don't want them to know until we're down the line, because they can harm our sellers, right?
There's a lot of different investment banks and M&A companies out there. So this is a similar process you would go through with anyone. We're talking to Mentor Securities and so they can give us their worldview. But if you are a company owner and you wanted to get this type of service, you wanted a valuation, you would hire a company like Mentor Securities, and you'd sign a contract. They would give you a quote for a fee, and you'd have to then reveal everything. You'd have to share your bank statements. It's a rigorous thing. And Davis, is there anything else you wanted to add when it comes to this process that you should kind of prepare the owner for? Like, how long does it take to do a valuation? What else do they need to give you?
Well, you're right. We need the clean and the dirty laundry. We need everything, really. We need them to be as truthful as they will be with us. What's interesting, I think, about Mentor Securities, we also have a sister company called the Mentor Group, which is a full service valuation firm. We don't sell businesses in the Mentor Group, but we value hundreds of business entities, intellectual property, real estate, and equipment. And so our people are very well versed in how to put values on a business and how to explain that to the sellers. So I think it gives us an edge in the marketplace. Yeah.
The process is how long? Like they would reach out to you for a quote, you give them a quote, they'd sign a contract with an NDA, they'd pay a fee, and then they'd give you all their data. You probably have a few meetings, maybe 4 meetings, and it takes 2 months, 3 months, 1 month.
Well, if you're talking about getting a what we call a deck or a confidential information memorandum prepared, it could be easily 6 to 8 weeks by the time you get the data and you understand the data and you've had conversations with them and you kind of mush it together into mathematical formulas. That's how long that process takes.
Okay. And just to be sure, I'm unpacking. This is my last question on this topic. Let's just say that we have anyone watching it and they're like, I wonder what my company is valued at. I don't know if I'm ready to sell yet. In the sense that I don't know if someone would value it. Let's just say they're at the 2 to 3 year mark before they plan to sell, or they are literally ready to sell. Both of those types of potential sellers should reach out for, or could reach out for, a valuation and would find value in it, right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we would do that through our valuation company, and we counsel a lot of potential sellers, if they're a couple of years away, to actually get that initial valuation and then figure out a way to share in a compensation package with their management team, and then value it every year. And the management team can see what they've created in that year period, and they get more compensation out of it. So everybody is aligned and driving toward the highest possible value. So yes, we recommend strongly that if they're not ready, they're not on the market yet, get the initial valuation, because there are a lot of things you can do with it.
For people who have the ambition to sell it for as much as they want, you have to plan in advance, but you should get an expert, because you might think your value should be $1 million because your business is your baby and you spent your whole life building this thing. And most business owners, just like parents, love their baby and see the value of it and just think their baby's beautiful. But when you're coming to sell a business, an outsider is going to have a much more critical perspective, and you may not know what things they will not enjoy about your business. You might not know what criticisms they would have. So you might sell it for way less than you could if you pre-plan, get an expert to give you a critical perspective. And it comes with, their valuations can come with advice, like, oh, this is what you're missing 3 to 5 years from now. If you work on X, you can sell it for a different number. So that's an asset. So it's important for people to be thinking ahead. And I hope everyone listening heard that.
Well, like I said, and like you so clearly stated, a big part of our role initially is to find the problems and the advantages of the company, solve the problems, right? And emphasize the advantages.